Hello and welcome back to the Growth Circle podcast. I'm your host, Lincoln Amstutz, and today I've got Jason Kurima on the podcast. Very excited to have this interview with him. A little bit about Jason. Jason is a 26-year-old business owner, real estate investor, and believer in Jesus. Jason owns a couple of phone repair shops, has done several deals in real estate, and is focusing heavily on growing in this space. He is a natural entrepreneur with big goals and dreams that he is looking to attain. Jason is also a personal friend of mine, and I know firsthand he is a person of great faith, character, and a strong work ethic. So I am excited to bring him on. And without further ado, Jason, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that nice introduction, and I'm happy to be here, man.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be a good conversation. We've talked a lot of business throughout the last couple of years, and but I haven't ever got really the full story and some of the details that I hope to get into today. So, my first question to you would be: you've jumped into several different business ventures in your 20s, from phone repair shops to retail stores, and more recently, real estate. Can you give us some insight into your start in business and how you chose the different industries that you're involved in?
Yeah, so originally I was working at Arc of the Ozarks, and I kind of got into a bunch of different e-commerce websites. So I would try I would try selling different products, or I would start building websites for people, and I just never really made any money. But I tried all these different online stuff, and then I had broken my iPhone 6, and I was like, crap, like I didn't really have a whole lot of money, so I didn't want to take it somewhere and it'd be really expensive to fix. So I looked up on eBay the parts, I found them and ordered them, and then I watched a bunch of YouTube videos and figured out how to do it. And so I just started taking apart my phone, and it took me 3 hours. I did it on this tiny little coffee table, and literally there was parts covering the entire thing. It was crazy, and the screws, if you've ever seen them, they're like itty bitty. So that was quite the experience. But anyways, I get through about 3 hours, and then I'm all excited because I don't have any parts missing. I just have everything put together. So I turned it on, and I had lines running through the screen, and I was like, crap, and they weren't there before. So I was like, oh gosh, what do I do? So 15 minutes went by, I kind of flipped out, and then came back and realized I hadn't pushed the cables in hard enough, and it was fixed. I was like, oh wow, this is awesome.
Nice.
So I was kind of jumping up and down because I was like, finally I fixed it. So it's like, well, maybe I could do this on the side. So I put some Facebook Marketplace listings out and said like I offered a phone repair service. And so people messaged me, and we'd set up a time to usually meet like in a public place, like a gas station or something. And I'd fix their phone in about 20 minutes, hand it back to them, and they'd be like super happy. But I kept hearing over and over from like so many people, like, man, this is awesome, I really appreciate it, but man, this looks really sketchy, like a drug deal, because they'd hand me a wad of cash and be like, thank you so much. So everyone kept telling me, hey, you should start a store. So that was kind of on my mind a lot, is like, man, maybe I should start a store. And then I'd met my now business partner, Brian, back around that time. What happened was he would sell me a phone for a really good deal, and I'd turn around and sell it and make like $100 profit on top of it. And he'd make a profit as well. So, and he just kept doing that for me over and over and giving me these super good deals. So I'm like, man, I really appreciate this guy. And he kind of had similar goals to start a store as well. So I was like, well, it makes sense for us to partner. So originally we were going to start one in Joplin, and we looked like at a bunch of different strip malls trying to find a space to lease, and everything was pretty pricey for us since we didn't have very much money. A lot of them were like $1,500 a month, and so we just kept praying about it, and uh, God kind of opened the doors for our first location was actually in Monette. The rent was $400 a month, and let me say this: at the time, I only had, between me and my partner, we only had $800 together, and then I had $300 worth of parts that I had basically in the back of my car that I was taking around everywhere trying to fix people's stuff. So the rent was $400 a month, and they didn't require a security deposit, so we just gave the $400 and we were in. And then we took $100. Me and my wife, we painted the whole store ourselves. We both were in school, and then we had both had jobs at the time. So we'd go to school, go to work, and then from like 6 till midnight every night for like a few weeks, we would just bust our butts and get everything painted and get everything ready and kind of start that store. And then there was a restaurant that was going out of business, and they had this really nice stainless steel tabletop counter thing, and so they were using it as like cabinets and stuff. So we flipped it on its side somehow, and then cut out a few pieces of it and turned it into our main table, and we still use it today actually, which is really cool. But I mean, it was at least worth $600, and we got it for like $90. So that was an amazing deal.
Yeah.
Um, and then there was like just so many looking back, it's really humbling to see like I feel like God was really faithful in a lot of it because there's no way that we could have done and pulled all that stuff off by ourselves. So that was really amazing.
Yeah.
But
That's quite the start for sure.
yeah,
I mean, to
so
jump into it like that.
yeah. So moving forward, we we finally opened and kind of got started, and we were like just slowly growing. And so a month or two went by, and then I asked my wife for a loan, and she has a different side of the story. She always says that I just stole the money out of her bank account, but I always say that that we talked about it. I don't know. And it's crazy because at the time we were dating, but we basically knew we were going to get married, so it wasn't a big deal. Like it doesn't. It sounds really bad, like I went and stole my girlfriend's money out of her account and everything, but it really wasn't like that. We pretty much knew we were going to get married. So, she had $2,000 saved. So we took that money and put it into the business, and we were able to get a little bit nicer chairs and kind of get the store looking like more of a storefront. And so that really, I think, helped us become or look more professional. And I really, I don't know. Ultimately, I think that kind of helped us a little bit. Having that little jump, and we were able to get more inventory as well.
Right.
And then I wanted to say this because I think you probably have some young entrepreneurs that watch your show. So I want to tell people that a lot of times when you're young, like I had struggled with getting people to take me seriously, where I always felt like people wouldn't take me serious because I'm young. And so I believe that like use that as your advantage. Like people, when you're young, I've noticed that a lot of people are more gracious because they kind of understand like you're young, you're trying to figure everything out. And so I think people are a little bit more gracious whenever you're young, and they kind of want to help you. So just kind of lean into that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, man. I mean, I had a similar experience with getting started in lawn care. You know, I was real young, 13, 14, and I was like, man, are these people going to, take me seriously? Is it, what's this interaction even going to be like? But like you're saying, I do feel like older people or people that are, more in their professional years are wanting to help out, the younger kid that's looking to get started, the younger, business owner, entrepreneur. And so, yeah, to not let that be a holdup in any way. And to me, yeah, what you're saying here in getting this business started, $800 in your all savings account, but you knew that this is something you all could make money at, that you had done a little bit to this point. I mean, that's quite the, just jump straight into it. And I think that's huge of just taking action and going for it. I mean, what was the decision making behind that? You're in school, you've got just this job currently. Why not continue working that job? What caused you to just say, hey, let's go forward and start the
Really, I
business?
think it comes down to knowing what I wanted. I knew that I wanted freedom. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I was really hungry. So I was like, man, whatever I could do. And our goal at the time was just get to where we don't have to rely on our jobs. Like we basically burned the boats. Like we both quit our jobs and then just went just straight into it. And like I said, we had $800 and we invested all of our $800. So we didn't really have anything to fall back on. But I mean, at least me and Haley, we both were still living at our parents' houses. Like she had her parents and I had my parents, that I could, if I really needed something, then I would be fine. But really, I think you have to take that leap of faith and just go all in. Otherwise, if you give yourself a way out, then you might not give it your all, and like you might not try as hard as you could have, and might not have gotten as far as you could have had you given up, or whatever. So and Brian didn't have a whole lot to fall back on, so he took a pretty big leap doing this too. But we believed in it, and we knew we knew it had to work because we were already pretty busy just meeting with people and fixing phones and everything. So um,
Right, right. I think that's a big thing is being willing to just, they say don't have necessarily something that you can fall back on. A lot of people want this safety net, this thing of, well, if this doesn't work, I've got this, it's fine. Fall forward, right? Fall in a direction that at least you're working on something. At least now you're committed, you're all in, like you're saying, and that really pushes you to go to the next level with it. Like you're committed. You've got to make this work. There's no other option here. And I think that speaks a lot to the success that you've had and where you've gotten in just a short amount of time is that willingness just to push it all in and go for it. What was kind of the next step then? Because you're putting money into the business now. You're starting to get some traction, make it more professional. What was that growth
so
like?
within a year after that, we started our second store in Carthage, and we at the time we were just big on growth. Like I didn't care. Like I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I knew I had this dream life that I wanted to live. So I was like, I need to scale. I need to keep growing. And it was like I feel like my whole life I've just risked like all my money over and over and over again. And luckily, for the most part, it's worked out. Like there's times where it didn't, but ultimately, like I just, was like all in over and over again. And so we started the store, didn't have very much money. It was actually really embarrassing when we had our grand opening for Carthage because we literally had like 5 cases or something, and they showed it in the chamber where it's like, and they have a selection of cases too. And it was literally like 5 cases. It was like so embarrassing. But I mean, we just hustled and I remember that store was like the same story. We worked our job, and then afterwards, we literally worked until like 2 a.m. one night, just trying to get the store ready. And luckily, I had mentors and people that really cared about me. And one of my mentors actually came and helped me get the store set up, and his or future son-in-law helped as well. And man, that family just did a lot for me, and so I really appreciate them because I mean, he built us a table. He helped fix a bunch of drywall, and I didn't know how to do any of that. He did a bunch of different things for us. So I was really, really thankful for the people that were in my life that kind of helped me become who I am. So,
Yes, it's huge to have those people around you, that strong circle, a
yeah.
mentor that you can look to for wisdom, advice that will help you in those times where, yeah, you're just trying to make it happen, where you're not, positive what to do in all those different ways. And yeah, couldn't agree with you more there. And I want to ask you more about that later as well. Uh, to me, I mean, it's crazy that you had this one store, you got it rolling, and making money, and then pretty quickly open the second one. Like, what was the timeline between opening the first and the second, and what was the first just crushing it, doing well, or like did you just try and open the second as fast as
Yeah,
possible?
so I think it was within about a year. I could be wrong on the dates, but it was around a year, I think. And another thing I forgot to mention is when we actually had our grand opening for the first store, like the Monette store, we actually hit our record day at the time. It was like a month and a half after we opened. I think we had our grand opening, and we hit a $500 a day. And we thought we were like racking it in, like raking it in. Like we thought like we were like big shots at the time because we're like, holy cow, we did so well. But now, I mean, that's pretty small change compared to what we do on an average day to day. And like I think we had one record day now, and it was like $8,000 in sales in one day, which is pretty good. So,
Really, is that one store
well, that was
between the two
22 stores.
stores?
Yeah.
That's crazy though. I mean, to go from 500's a big day to
Yeah.
8,000, I mean, that's some serious
Yeah.
growth.
But
Yeah.
but anyways, moving forward, after we started the Carthage store, I don't know if it was. I think 6 months to a year later, we moved it to a better location, and then 6 months to a year after that, um, there was an opportunity for us to buy Eye Protect in Joplin, and it was a store that had been open for 10 years, and it was one of the biggest stores in Joplin. Like it did one of the highest volumes. And so I this is why I preach persistence so much, because had I not been persistent with going to banks, I wouldn't have gotten that. I had to go to literally, I think, 5 banks until I got the funding for that store. And we almost gave up after the third, and then we almost gave up again after the fourth or whatever. And then finally, we just gave it one more try and was like, okay, if this next bank doesn't do it, then we're done. And so I thought that was a huge deal. And luckily, we didn't give up, because that's the bank that has helped me with the real estate and been able to open a lot of doors with that. But we can kind of get into that a little bit later. But anyways, they did the funding, and also through this, I want to say, like, I was very, like, I prayed about every decision before we made it. Like, I've made mistakes. Like, I don't think God will just prevent bad things from happening to you. But I mean, I pray through every decision I make for the most part. And sometimes I've been wrong and lost money doing deals, and sometimes it's worked out. But I think you have, like, if you're not grounded in, like, your faith, then I feel like there's a huge piece in life that you're missing. And so I just encourage everyone to really build a relationship with God if you don't already have one, or get connected with the church if you aren't already. Uh,
Yeah. I think that's a huge thing you're touching on is that faith in God, that at the end of the day, you're taking these big risks and leaps in businesses, but you've got your faith, you've got your belief in him that is so, solid, and you're assured in that you can have that peace, even when things are crazy, good days, bad days, you've got that to rely on for him to guide you in making decisions. There's something there that if you don't have that relationship with God, you're just not going to be able to have. And I can attest to the same thing. Those days where you're not certain about these, big decisions you're having to make, or maybe there were issues that came up. That relationship with God, you not only fall back on, but it leads you into making the decisions that you make. So yeah, it's really awesome to hear
yeah,
that in your life as well.
yeah.
For you on those stores, then, I mean, obviously a lot of growth in the numbers and sales. When did you start bringing on employees to those businesses, and what does that look like
Yeah.
today?
So whenever we hit our second store, then we were able to, like, I think a year into it, then we started bringing on employees. And that was a challenge, because I find it uncomfortable whenever I have to have, like, those uncomfortable conversations with them, like, hey, you need to do a better job cleaning this or whatever. But I think being able to be put in a position where you have to do that, otherwise things aren't getting done at a young age, especially, I think that's, like, invaluable, to be put in those positions. And so I think it's helped me over the course of, each year. I feel like I'm getting better overall. But I don't know, it's just sometimes you get put out of your comfort zone and it sucks, but you just learn from it and you kind of move forward. So,
Yeah, when you're a business owner, you're wearing all the hats. You're, doing the visionary, the growth, where are we going with this, but you're also figuring out the day-to-day, running it for a while, and then you're bringing people on, then you're managing and training, and there's so many elements to it. I mean, where do you feel like you naturally fall in that equation? Do you like the real, getting in the weeds and the details and, doing the work there, or do you like the growth and, thinking outside the box for that
yeah,
strategy?
I try to be as passive as I can, but I want to make sure things are being run right. You know what I mean? So that's kind
Yes.
of what I tried. Like, if you can figure out a way to delegate your tasks, then I think that's a game changer. Because, like, say if you can focus on what you're good at, because I feel like God's given everyone a gift, and if you just focus on what you're good at, you can scale that way better than you can if you wore every hat. And I don't know. That's my experience, anyways.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, you only have, the same 24 hours in the day like everybody else, but if you can utilize other people's strengths and skill sets and time to benefit them and grow your company, I mean, that's the way to grow and continue. And I've got to applaud you for your persistence there with going to those 5 banks, because it's not an easy thing to do. I've done the same, and you're reaching out to people, and you haven't really worked with them before, and you're building credit and all these things. It takes some tough conversations, and again, multiple trials of that again and again. So that's huge that you did that. And I'm curious, was it this other business, this other store approached you? Did you approach them when they were looking to sell, and did they give you a price? What was that negotiation
Yeah,
like?
so my business partner, Brian, was already pretty good friends with the old owner. And so he kind of offered it to us first. And that kind of is what that relationship was. And I mean, that just shows how important relationships are. Like, had he not had that connection, we wouldn't have ended up with that store. And
Right.
another thing, so I've actually kind of preached on this one time. Like, I'm not a pastor or anything, but one of our pastors let us preach on this, me and my father-in-law. We talked about tithing and how important it is for us. And a lot of people, when they start tithing, which is giving 10% of your income to the church or to charity or whatever, a lot of times when they start tithing, they are usually greeted with like some type of blessing. And I don't really recall what my blessing was. Like, I mean, I obviously starting out, I wasn't making very much money whenever I started tithing. I think I was working at the pawn shop. I was working one day a week and made $40 for that one day, and I was tithing $4 on that basically. So I didn't really, I wasn't a whole lot of money, but it meant I couldn't get as much gas as I needed because that was basically my gas money as like a, high school or whatever. But anyways, I feel like God really blessed us whenever we bought iProtect because that was huge for us. That store was doing really well, and um, I don't. That's just kind of my story with tithing, and I mean, it came a few years later, but that was a huge blessing there. So
Absolutely. There's something to it. Scripture and the Bible talks about it, and if you give into the Lord, the blessing that He will, return back. I mean, if you think about it, if you are willing to, lend somebody some money, right? And they are responsible with it, they are going and maximizing it, they're giving back, like these different things, you're going to want to double down and invest more into that person, more time, more money, whatever it is. And yeah, I think God does the same thing in our lives when we're generous, when we are helping those in our community that are in need. We're giving back to Him automatically, at first, not maybe what's left over. There's absolutely that benefit there. Sometimes monetarily, but other times blessings in other parts of life with peace and relationships and all the different ways He works. So I think your faithfulness there will go a long way. And like you said, with that store doing really well, did that store become the main store in the Carthage area,
yeah,
or was that an additional
yeah.
one?
So we kept the Carthage one for a little bit, and then and it made money, but we just felt like it wasn't worth the headache of having like an employee there or trying to manage a couple employees and do everything when Joplin was only like 15 minutes away or 20 minutes away. It was close enough that we felt like, okay, we can just have this one store I protect and that'll service the area. So that's kind of what we did. And it was, at the time, it really made a lot more sense to us because it was so much easier to manage. Um,
Yeah.
so after I protect, um, I kind of wanted to start branching out into other businesses. So me and my wife, I think this was a year, at least a year after we had bought iProtect, we started the Everything Shop, which was a liquidation company. So we'd buy, you've probably seen on Marketplace, all those big pallets worth of different merchandise. It was a big craze a year or two ago. But anyways, we'd buy truckloads of merchandise from like big box stores, and then we'd sell them at a discount. But the problem was we didn't ever know what our cost of each good was. Like it was like say there's 300 pieces and it was like a $6,000 truckload or whatever. You could calculate it that way. But some things would be like a snow plower, like a motorized snow plower, and then something would be like a screwdriver. So it was like pretty much impossible for us to create a system to where we could manage that. I mean, I'm sure people probably could figure out a way, but we didn't really have a system for it. And so we were open for around a year, and then we closed that business because I think that the price per item that we were paying, we couldn't really make a profit because we were selling it at like 60% of retail. And we played with it. Like we tried raising the price to where it was a little higher, and people wouldn't buy it. And then if it was a little lower, we didn't think we were making anything at all. And then it was very hands-on, and I don't really like businesses that are super hands-on. So like every day I was out in the warehouse trying to put prices on everything, and we do these little printouts to where we showed what the item was worth on Amazon or whatever, and then we crossed it out with our price. And it was just a lot. It wasn't the right business for me and Haley, so we kind of moved on from
Yeah.
that. But another blessing out of that, though, was buying this building. It's like 4,200 square feet, and we converted it to put our phone store in there. And then now I put my office and a studio, and then a little event center. Like really, it's mainly for my kids to be able to go and play because we do like the soft play stuff, like bounce house and different stuff like that. And then it's like the perfect place for my material for my real estate business. So, because it has like the big garage door and it's like a warehouse in part of it. So that worked out really well. And at the time, we wouldn't have guessed this is what we would have turned it into. But I mean, here we are. So,
Right. So you went from one store to two with the phone shops, and then you bought this building, and then made it the everything shop, and you were selling out of it. Gave that about a year run, and then have moved on since. I mean, it makes sense of once you have those stores set up enough. It sounds like those phone shops were essentially running themselves at that point. You didn't. I'm curious how much time you spent on those even after the fact, starting your next business. How much time did you spend on those? And, seemingly you're making enough money to be able to buy this new building and take a step
yeah.
out.
So at the time, I was working at least probably 80-hour weeks because, when we bought the building, we had to do the rehab on it, just like whenever we were setting up our stores. But this was a much bigger project because it was 4,200 square feet of constant like improvements that we had to make. And I had like a handyman that I hired to help me, and he did a great job. At the
Yeah.
time, we just had to work hard and do it because I didn't know enough about hiring like a contractor. We didn't really have the money to hire a contractor, so we had to just kind of scramble and do what we could. And we got a working capital loan for the merchandise, so we used part of it to help us improve the building, and then the other part we just bought our merchandise from. So, uh,
Okay. I think it's very fascinating to me because there's people have a lot of different risk tolerances and philosophies, maybe even on savings and how, comfortable they are. I mean, for you, it seems like you pretty much are always just going for it, any opportunity you can. Like, let's open the second store, let's open a new business. Like, even if I have to be the one to fix it up and, we're crunching numbers to try and save and get this contractor in here. It sounds like you've pretty much always reinvested. Like, how is that? What's kind of that philosophy for you? Has that changed over time? And how have you seen the benefit of just putting it all out there?
so for me, I don't know if I really have like a technical philosophy, but I just believe that if you invest, like I feel like I have the hunger and the drive that no matter what, I can figure it out. Like the everything shop didn't work, but it didn't set me like it set me back, but it didn't set me back to destroy me, because I had built a foundation. So having that foundation, I just kind of risked what I could, took like pretty much all the money I had, knowing that at least I have the income from the phone store to support me there, and just put it all out there. And then, like, I've done that constantly. I still do that with real estate today. Like, I use all of my money to go out and buy the next property, and I've used private money as well and banks, obviously. But just constantly reinvesting, ultimately, I feel like has worked out pretty well for me.
And you've got to, of course, you have to look at the risk reward. Like, hey, worst case scenarios, what's going to happen versus, if we just buckle down and make this happen, which you have, like, where are we going to be at And I often say, in your 20s, like that's the time to experiment with different businesses, to learn new skills, to really, yeah, take the higher risk approach in life and whatever it is, for the maximum, benefit later down the line, making sacrifices, right? Because you could have been satisfied with those couple stores, just, let's just save up some money, kind of kick back and let it do its thing. But you pressed the gas down even further and kept rolling with it. And I think that's a huge thing that a lot of people can benefit from, is especially at this age. I mean, at any point in life you can, but especially at this age, just going for it and betting on yourself to make it
Yeah,
happen.
I agree.
So for you then,
Go ahead. I'm
yeah.
sorry.
No, I was going to kind of change it up if you had a comment on that.
Yeah, I agree. I think your 20s, but even if you're past your 20s, like I don't think like if it's never too late to chase your dreams. So if you're like 40 or 50, 60, 70 years old, like I can't remember KFC, it was started when the guy was like 70 years old and like he chased his dream and made it happen. So why can't you? Like what separates you from them? Like there's like you're still human. He was human. You can go out and achieve anything you want in life, but you have to go after it. You have to take that leap of faith and jump and go for it. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. You can't like this is one of
Exactly
my
right.
favorite quotes. You can't hit a target you can't see. So if you don't have a goal, how are you going to hit it? Like there's no way that you can hit a goal that you don't have. So you have to set a goal and then you have to review it every day and make a little progress each day towards it. Like you have to just at least be thinking about it, devising a plan, and then a lot of people can devise a plan but they never take the first step. Take the first step and just keep going.
I couldn't agree more, and that applies to everybody, right? Older, younger, is taking that step and jumping in. For you then at this point, you've started this everything shop, decided to go a different direction, repurpose your space. I think what you're using it for now is awesome. Being able to have several different uses for it there. It's storage for your real estate and the different things going on. When did you get into your first real estate investment deal, and what was that like? Tell us a little bit about that first
Yep.
property.
So 20, I believe it was 20. I think it was 2018 or 2019. We bought our first property. It was just a little house in Pierce City. I think we bought it for around 28,500, somewhere in there, and we just kind of fixed it up a little bit. I think we only put like $500 into it, and one of my first employees was actually the one that rented it from me. And so that was a good setup because I knew no matter what I could get rent. No, I'm just kidding. But I knew I was pretty safe with that tenant. And he was a great tenant. Um, I remember me and my wife did something that was kind of cool. It was actually her idea. She got him this big bouquet of like all these different things, like toiletries and towels and just a bunch of different like cleaning products and stuff that he would need for the house. So it was kind of nice, and I know he really appreciated that. But that was a really good rental. It worked out really well for us, and then we kept it for 2 years, and then the market started getting a little hotter, so we decided to sell it, and then I think we made around a $20,000 or $25,000 profit, so that was good. And so we took that money, and then around that time, I had partnered with a guy, and we started buying properties together, and we just kind of took what we had and put our money together, and just kept finding deals, and it went pretty good. We thought we were going to make a lot more money the first year than we did, but we learned a lot, and I think that's the biggest thing. Like if you can, like even like on your first property, like so my first property, it did pretty well, make 25,000 after a couple of years, but if you like on it wasn't intentionally a flip though, and we didn't really flip it. We put like $500 into it, so it was just small repairs. But like when you get into flips, I feel like that's when things change quite a bit. Um, we hired a bunch of handymen to do it, and we just learned like so much along the way. And then in the end, we probably made like a $3,000 to $7,000 profit. So it was, I think it was like 3,500 a piece is what it was. So we didn't make very much money on it, but the experience was well worth it because there were so many things we didn't know that we didn't know. And so we learned those little mistakes, and then we tweaked it and we applied it to the next house. And then that one we made a better profit and we did better. And we just kind of, like I said, unknown unknowns. Like you never know what you're missing out on, or what you don't know about. So if you can figure those out and then tweak your system, then ultimately like you're growing and you're going forward.
Right. That's a huge aspect, is just jumping in. There's some education you got to have. You got to know, some of the basics when getting into any business, but real estate deals. But you learn so much when you do it. I completely feel the same way. And then that allows you to figure out, okay, maybe I don't want to pursue this aspect of real estate. Maybe I want to transition to that, or vice versa. And so for you, it sounds like the first was a rental, and then you started getting into some flips. Did you have the goal when getting into real estate of, hey, I'm just going to do this for a long-term investment to build up rental properties, or did you know you wanted to do some of both with the flips as well? What was the decision making
So
behind
I
that?
knew I wanted to have both, but I didn't have a whole lot of capital, especially after kind of taking a hit from the everything shop. So I had maybe $25,000 from that sale. So that's what I started putting into the real estate business. And I knew if I wanted to buy apartments ultimately, and that's still my goal, is to continue buying apartments, then I had to flip and then take the money and reinvest it. And so we did several flips, and then that built the money up to now where I just bought my first apartment complex. And so, we having see if you think about it. So my goal was apartment complexes, right? But I knew I couldn't just jump to it. Or there's some people are able to, and they figure out a way to do it. But for me, I worked my way backwards. Okay, I was like, okay, if I can flip this house and make this profit, I can flip it, put the money into another house, flip it, and just keep building the money up until where I can finally afford an apartment complex. And so if you if you take your goal and then reverse engineer it and figure out what the early steps are, that's one of the best ways to hit a goal. And so that's exactly what I did.
I like that. Yeah, you've got to take that large goal that seems huge, whether it's at the end of the year, the end of 10 years, or maybe for you, it's the specific of having this apartment complex. Yeah, reverse engineer it, work it back, break it down so it doesn't seem so scary. You've got to do that so that so that you know more than, okay, I've got to do this between now and 2 years from now to get there. It's like, no, I know what I got to do this week, today, in order to get there, and breaking it down into very attainable steps. And that's what you did. You got into, single family properties first. And how many flips did you do during that time, or did you have a certain amount that you wanted to like save up so that you could put down on this, or was it just a matter of working those and then when the right deal came along, executing and getting on it?
So it was all kind of a combination of both. So basically, I think we did like 6 or 7 flips the first year. I could be wrong, but I think actually we bought 7 properties that first year. And then some of them got completed the following year. But then after I think a year and a half, me and my partner kind of split up, and we kind of were established to the point where he kind of wanted to do more contracting stuff, and along with investing, and I was pretty much done with the contracting stuff. I just wanted to invest in my own deals, and so we kind of split up, went our separate ways, and then I started focusing on like just continue flipping, and then I learned a system on doing owner carrybacks to where if I can get the owner to carry like 10% for me, my bank will only make me bring 5% to close with, and plus closing costs, and I can buy a property with a lot less money than I would if I had to put 20% down on a property. So that's what I did on my first deal, and so I didn't have to bring. I think I brought around 20,000 or so to close on that first apartment complex, which isn't very much considering, what it should have been. So if I can just keep doing
Yeah.
that, then that's kind of how I see myself growing. So for this year, I would like to buy 50 apartments. I'm at 9, so I have a long way to go, but I have several prospects of like properties that I want to buy. And if I buy these next 2 deals that I'm looking at this year, then I'll be at 30 something. So then I'm not that much further to go to hit 50. So that's kind of my plan. I know
I
it's a
love it.
huge goal and I might not hit it, but I always tell people, like, set a big goal, and if you don't hit it, just change your deadline. There's no unrealistic goals, just unrealistic deadlines. So if I can, maybe I hit
Right.
that next year, that's still amazing. Like, how many people, well, now there's a lot more people that are able to do it, but very few people can just go out and within the first year of owning apartments buy 50, or first 2 years or whatever. So, uh,
Absolutely. I mean, Michael Jordan says it, right? You miss every shot you
yeah,
don't take. And you've got to be willing to, hey, I'm setting this goal at 50. And if I make it to, 30, then, hey, then you're at 30. And you finish it the next year, you keep pushing it up. And so that's exciting. 9 units, apartment units purchased this year, 5% down, you said, with the rest seller finance carryback. So you just, you brought that 20,000 or so to the bank. And then are you going to be cash flowing on those properties? Obviously, we're in a high interest rate environment. You're 95% leverage at this point. What's the plan as far as, is it going to be refinancing down the line? Is it, hey, I'm cash flowing now, we're good to go for a few
yeah.
years?
So we got the appraisal back. I think it appraised for at least, it was either, I think it was $70,000 equity I already have in the property. So that's good. Because
Very
I
nice.
got a $50,000 construction loan, so I'm all in for 310, and I think it appraised for 393, somewhere in there. So so I'm pretty set there, but I figured out a way to increase my profit per year by about $10,000, and so I all I did was I started charging the tenants for the utilities, and there's definitely some pushback. But I think, after I kind of get through that hump, we'll get through it. But there's just things that you don't that a lot of people might not think about to make more cash flow on a property. So once you kind of figure out different things you can do and just create those systems, I think I don't know. There's just a lot of opportunities there.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's a big thing with the commercial real estate when you're looking at raising the value on properties. There's obviously a component of improving the property itself and to add equity to uh, increase in appraisal, but a lot of it comes down to what the cash flow and increase the efficiency and higher income, lower expenses, all those things. So yeah, adding those utilities in is a big one, and there's going to be a lot of different ways you can improve that value. Especially, I mean, if it's already 70,000 over what you paid for it before putting money in, I mean, you're going to be well ahead, and we'll have
Yeah.
options down the line. And that's why I tell everybody is you get a good deal, you've got different options. You can flip that right away. You can hold it. You can do new financing later. So you've set yourself up for that, and you're making money on it. So for looking for the next deal, where do you look for your deals at? Is it you try and stay in a pretty close geographical radius? How are you looking to get into
Yeah,
that next
so we
deal?
typically look in like a 30-minute radius from Monette, so Aurora, Cassville, and just kind of the surrounding areas. But that's where I've been buying a lot is Aurora, Cassville, and Monette. Um, and then we typically we've bought a lot of flips, so we buy really a lot of the stuff that people say, "Man, you need to demolish that." That's the stuff I've gone after a lot, and we have a really good contracting crew that we work with, and have built a really strong relationship with them. And then I'm actively looking to build or partner with another crew, and to kind of get to where I could scale. And then most of our deals we do off market, or we do it with wholesalers. Like me and you did our first deal a couple weeks, or maybe it's been a month ago, and that was pretty awesome. So uh, I'm always looking for more
Right,
deals, and
right.
I give finders fees to people that send me deals. If anyone wants to send me a deal, um, yeah, just reach out to me.
Absolutely. I think that's, yeah, you're getting networked, you're connected, you're looking around yourself for properties. But yeah, I've been surprised, not surprised, but impressed by the types of properties that, you guys take on. You do some large rehabs, which a lot of people, like you said, they don't want to touch those. They're looking for something else that everybody else is looking for, the light rehab on a 3-bed, 2-bath, whatever it is. But it sounds like you're willing to go for some of those larger rehabs. I mean, has that panned out? Have you found success
Yeah,
in doing those?
I think that's kind of where our bread and butter is. And something that kind of makes me and my wife laugh is like a lot of people, like a lot of investors that we know, they'll see that a property needs a new roof and then they're automatically out. And we're like, man, that's not even that bad. So to us, it's just like, if we figure we can, typically on a house, like I won't touch it unless I think I can make at least a $30,000 profit. And of course, speed. Like I know you've done some good deals where you were able to flip them really quick. So if I was able to take like a $20,000 profit for flipping a property in a month, then yeah, I'd be all over that. But a lot of my rehabs are a lot more extensive and they take longer. So it just depends on the deal.
Right. Where does it go from here with real estate? I know you said 50 apartment units is the goal for this year. That's what you're wanting to focus on, is just building up that rental portfolio. Like long term, where do you want to be at with, is it a unit count? Is it cash flow monthly? I mean, what do you want to grow to on the real estate
So I
portfolio
might
side?
change my mind later in life, but as of right now, my biggest goal is to own 20,000 apartments by the time I'm 65. And I don't want to do, I want to
Yeah,
own it myself or me and my wife. I don't want to do like syndication deals. I want to like pure, pretty much 100% own them. So that's the big
very
goal,
nice.
along
I
with
like it.
like, being able to travel anytime we want. We'd like to own a jet one day. Uh, we'd like to do good with the jet too. Like if we could help someone somehow, or like I'm big into like giving and like charity and stuff like that. So one of our other goals is to start a charity. I'm really passionate about like helping people out of sex trafficking and stuff like that. So we've talked about maybe giving like large amounts to underground Operation Underground Railroad, or partnering with them somehow, or maybe just starting our own charity where we assemble like an ex-military Navy SEAL guys that go and help those women, and there's boys and men that are stuck in, like, there's slavery. I mean, it's just horrible what's happening, and I mean it's here in America too. It's really sad. So uh, we just are really passionate, or at least I am really passionate about uh, that. And if we could help somehow, that's kind of what I'm really leaning towards.
It's so good. It's so good because, I mean, I'm very glad, movies like The Sound of Freedom, coming out and bringing awareness to these issues. It's so good to have goals in business and real estate and where we want to get to. But I like the fact that you have specific goals with, these charitable donations, organizations that you want to join or start in the future, and having some specifics there too, because you can have the thought of, well, someday, I'll start giving more, I'll figure it out at that point. What you're touching on as far as having those specific places to give and be a part of, because there are a lot of people that have these big goals in real estate, as do you and I, but then nothing really on the charitable side, on giving. But you have those specifics that, hey, this is an issue that I want to be a part of and help solve. Like, God has called me to give to this person or that, and that is huge that you've got those in mind as well as the real estate goals. So that's, and to be doing that today. You've talked about how, hey, I already tithe, I'm already helping many out currently, and because it doesn't get easier later, it's something you have to start now. So I'm glad that that's a big emphasis for you on the goal side.
Yeah, everyone says, "Oh, give me $1 million, I'll easily give 100,000." But will you really? Because I mean, $100,000 is a lot of money. So
Hmm.
if I believe that if you don't start early, it just gets harder and harder, because you're like, and people might get more stingy and be like, "Oh, I don't want to give that much." 10% doesn't seem that much when it's small amounts, but whenever it gets to bigger amounts, it just gets harder. So I always encourage people to start young, start whenever you don't think, like I started at $4, giving $4 when I was making $40 a month or $40 a week. So, I mean, just start early and make it a habit.
Right. Absolutely agree. And for you with goals, then, is there a certain way that you set them up as far as timelines that you give different goals or methods that you use to track how you're doing on those? What's kind of your way of going about that?
So every single day, pretty much, I write out my goals. Like I type them out in my notes, and it's pretty long. It's like a paragraph at least this long of goals, and so but that helps me keep track. I have five main ones, and a lot of them like my so the first one is serve the Lord my God and honor Him and give God the glory. And two is be an amazing husband and father and be patient and kind and love Haley the way that God wants me to. And then number three gets more into specifics like of my goals for 2023, 2024, and 2025. So like the next 3 years. And then goal four talks about like my life. So by age 30, I want to accomplish this. By age 35, do this. By age 40, do this. By 45, do this. And then by age 60, and that's where I talk about, um, owning the 20,000 apartments. So I kind of have them broken up by that. And then the fifth goal is be the be exactly the man that God created me to be and honor Him. And then just some more similar goals like that. So it's stuff that it's like a lot of like one, two, and five are goals that are very like it's constantly I have to be working on them like every day. It's not this okay I'm gonna just achieve this one day. It's like my walk with God or my just continual growth with my family and everything.
Hmm.
And then
Yeah.
goal uh, three and four talk about like specific things that I want to accomplish. And like I said before, like if ever I feel like I don't really care about doing this goal anymore, I just change the goal or change the deadline if I'm not going to hit the deadline. And so, like I said, there's no unrealistic goal, just unrealistic deadlines. So
That's good. I like that actually. Yeah, there's no unrealistic goals, just unrealistic deadlines. That yeah, sometimes you got to adjust and hey, maybe you got it done sooner, maybe you got to push it back, but you got to stay persistent to get there and not just well, it didn't happen, we'll move along. But general goals, specific goals, what you got, you go over them daily. All these things are huge because it's constantly on your mind. You're thinking about how can I improve this, how can I get there faster, and or maybe add this on. I really it makes sense to where you've gotten in the last few years because of your consistency in these things. And we talk about goals you have in the future. I'm curious, have you always done this? Writing goals down, having timelines for a year or whatnot, and have those come through for you?
So early on, I didn't do it as well as I do it now. I've obviously tweaked it quite a bit, but this is a really, really cool story that me and my wife love to tell. So back whenever we had been dating for about 2 years, I think I had written this. So we started dating when we were 15, and I'm 26 now. But whenever we were like I think 17, I had written out date Haley McCord, get A's and B's, and make varsity sophomore year or something like that. And those were my three goals I had at the time. And she found that 2 years later that I had written it, she found one of my notebooks and saw that. And that was so cool because, like, shortly after I had written out that goal, we were dating and now we've been married for, 4 years now or whatever. So it's just cool to see, like, look, I did it. I did all those things and I made them happen.
That's so cool. Yeah, way back in the day, 15 years old, making goals about, hey, this is what I need to achieve right here, right now, and looks like it came through. So that I like that. You had touched on something earlier about having a mentor, somebody that you're able to was able to help you out in a lot of ways at that time, especially with the the phone store. Do you still have a mentor today? What was that relationship, or is that like? And tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I've had several mentors throughout the years. I think like mentors is like cheat. It's literally like they give you cheat codes basically to life and let you just like get wherever you're trying to get a lot faster. So yeah, I still have several mentors and like like my pastor is a mentor. So I don't believe that you need one mentor for everything. I believe you need mentors for different areas of your life, so like spiritually, and then I think I have one for business, obviously, and actually a few for business, and then I want to hire like a personal trainer, and then just these people that can make me better and all around better, like health, wealth, spiritually, everything. So I want to continue growing and becoming the best I can be. I've invested. I think now I'm around 35,000 that I've invested into personal development stuff. So like going to seminars, coaches, just different things like that. And I want to. Next year, one of my goals is it'd be cool to spend close to 100,000 just in one year on personal growth and stuff, and going to these events. Because if I invest in myself that much, what like that literally will translate to millions, because you can't just take on all this information. Like I'm not the type of person that just takes in information and doesn't do anything with it. If I can just learn a little bit and then apply and apply, then I mean it'll translate to millions. So I'm excited about, I don't know, I'm just excited about life and the direction we're going. And I was reflecting the other day about like how where we started and then where we are today, and it's nowhere where I want to be. Like I want to be much further than I am now, but it's just so humbling, and I'm just so thankful to be in the position I am today.
Hmm. Investing back into yourself in a lot of different areas, especially business, is huge, because you can have a season or a time of like learning. Okay, I'm doing these flips. All right, I got this apartment, and then there's the temptation or tendency to just stay there, right? And to not continue to push yourself to learn more because, hey, I've got this great, thing that's working. We're making money. I already know more than so-and-so. And hey, I'm fine. But you're not of that mindset. You're saying, I'm going to continue to learn. I'm going to continue to put a lot of time, money, energy into educating myself right now, increase my earning capacity, learn things I may not have before, because that's going to translate, I think, tenfold. I mean, I know even for myself personally, I got into real estate. I've, done a lot of wholesaling. Well, there's a lot of strategies and things that I've learned within wholesaling that have allowed me to do deals I couldn't otherwise. And then other forms of investing like long-term rentals or short-term flips. So yeah, doubling down in learning and reinvesting into education, like you said, 100,000, yeah, making millions of dollars with that new knowledge and time spent. That's big. Has that something you've always had, or has that desire kind of grown more recently?
I think it's grown. Like one of the things that I've always wanted to do, like when I was a teenager, was go to like a Tony Robbins thing, and some of his business mastery things are like $10,000 for a week or whatever. And so I always was like really intrigued by that, and like the type of people that could pay that kind of money to go to something like that. And I always wanted to become one of those people. So I don't know, it's just really cool.
How big is a role as networking played in your 20s and your business? Is that something you really focus on? I can tell with the mentorship that you've got great people in your life.
Yeah. So I don't feel like I'm necessarily the best networker. I feel like I can make connections pretty well, but I feel like there's just certain thing like I feel like I'm very strategic about it. Like I go to like try to learn from one person. If I can go and meet this person, I think they can take me to the next level or whatever. So I don't feel like I network like crazy with everyone, but like the few connections that I really want, I go after, and I usually make them happen.
Hmm. That's big. I like it. Well, Jason, I want to move on to kind of the part in the podcast where we ask the same 4 questions to each guest. So if you're ready for that, I will fire them at you.
All right.
The first being, what is one of the best pieces of advice you've been given?
I would say write out your goals.
Yeah, I like it. You've clearly done that yourself and kind of shown us the power of that. So writing them out, that's good. What is one of your favorite business books?
I would say Rich Dad Poor Dad. I think that is a game changer for everyone that reads it. Like it's very eye opening. It's easy to read. You've read it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. It's helped a lot of people get into real estate, or at least realize like the power of real estate. and business in general. So I think
Right.
every entrepreneur or aspiring entrepreneur needs to read that book.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Number 3, what is one character trait you notice that successful people commonly share?
You have to have a target that you're going after. Like I said, you can't hit a target you can't see. So you have to have those goals or those things that you're constantly looking at to and then work on bridging the gap. That's what I think the successful people do that every day. They work on high level tasks that get them closer to their goals.
Yes, absolutely. I like it. I think that is a huge, huge component I've seen in, yeah, other successful people as well.
Yeah.
And then number 4 is simply where can people connect with you and reaching out?
You can follow me on Facebook or Instagram, and then pretty soon I plan to start my own podcast. I think we're going to call it the Kurima Podcast or something along those lines, but I'm excited. I think what you're doing, I really appreciate and think that you're doing an amazing job with the Circle Growth Podcast or Growth Circle Podcast, sorry. And I don't know, I'm excited for everything you're doing, Lincoln. You're doing amazing.
Hey, I appreciate it. It's helpful to have guys like yourself that I can run alongside with, get some ideas and just that motivation from, seeing you do the same thing. So I agree with you there. And, I guess one other thing I'll ask you, is there anything else, we covered a lot, your story, really neat hearing about those different businesses and real estate goals and such. Any question that you wish I would have asked during the podcast?
Nothing that you would have asked, but I just want to inspire people to believe in themselves. I do hashtag believe in yourself on every one of my posts because I feel like that's the thing that really helped me. Is every day I worked on myself. Every day I believed in myself, even when it was hard and like literally the crap hits the fan and you that's just part of life. But if you don't believe in yourself, then how are you going to achieve all the things that you're wanting to achieve in life? So I think everyone needs to believe in themselves. I really want to inspire them to think more outside the box and think about what their dreams are and go and take actionable steps to make them happen. Because so many people start out, they're kids, they have all these aspirations, they have all these things they want to do, and they think it'd be so cool to do this stuff. And then they give up because life hits them in the face, and then they just back off and get a job or get just, they just get something that's not what they really want. So I want you guys to be more choosy and go after it and make it happen.
That's a great message, and I think it's going to be something that helps a lot of people listening and something that people need to hear, in today's day and age when that's not the common message that's preached, but a crucial one. So, Jason, I appreciate you coming on, taking some time here. It's great conversation, and thanks for joining the Growth Circle podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Definitely. Well, if you all found value from this podcast episode like I did, please give us a review and rating after watching here, and we will catch you on the next one.